As the late afternoon sun dipped below the horizon and my helicopter's blades whirred to a halt on the private helipad I'd built at the edge of Willow Ridge Estates, I felt an inexplicable chill ripple through the air, an omen of the storm that was about to descend. Moments later, through the tinted glass of the terminal lounge, I spotted Karen Whitaker strutting toward me, her equally rotund frame impossibly taut in a lace-trimmed blazer, wielding an HOA violation notice like a battle standard. My pulse raced as she thrust the letter under my nose, her beady eyes glinting with self-righteous fury. "You have no right to operate that monstrosity here," she hissed, voice dripping with disdain. "By order of the Willow Ridge Homeowners Association, all aircraft landings and takeoffs within estate boundaries are permanently banned, effective immediately." A laugh bubbled in my throat at her audacity, but I swallowed it, determined to maintain civility despite the absurdity of her decree. No amount of petty bylaws could ground me. After all, I wasn't just any resident, I was the lessee of that chopper to the state governor himself. An inconvenient fact Karen had no idea of. My mind raced. How to dismantle her tyrannical gambit without igniting a full-blown neighborhood revolt. The answer came as I recalled a confidential memo in my briefcase, an undisclosed contract between my charter flight company and the governor's office, granting me exclusive rights to aerial transport within estate limits. That document was my trump card, a lethal revelation that would expose Karen's overreach and restore order to our community. I retreated inside, heart pounding, and flipped open my leather-bound portfolio. With practiced precision, I extracted the governor's written endorsement, handwritten, dated, and notarized, confirming our arrangement for emergency medical evacuations, wildfire surveillance, and even VIP transport for visiting dignitaries. Meanwhile, outside, Karen gathered a small horde of frightened neighbors, waving her clipboard as though summoning them to war. Mothers clutched their children. Retirees shuffled forward with fearful expressions. She began reciting her self-authored amendment to the HOA Charter, proclaiming, "Safety concerns dictate that no aircraft shall breach our tranquil haven." My stomach knotted with outrage. She was weaponizing safety to cloak her entitlement. In that instant, I decided to summon an unforeseen ally, Sheriff Elena Cruz, a stalwart of integrity and protector of citizens' rights, who I knew resented Karen's petty tyranny. I dialed her number, voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me, and requested her immediate presence at the helipad. She arrived within minutes, lights flashing on her cruiser, commanding attention with a single glance. Under the fading sky, Karen's smirk faltered as Sheriff Cruz strode forward, hand on her service weapon. "Show me these bylaws," Cruz demanded, voice low and unyielding. Karen thrust the printed amendment at her, but Cruz's frown deepened as she read. "This amendment violates state aviation code and your own charter," she declared. "No HOA can override state jurisdiction on aircraft operations, especially with a governor's lease in place." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Karen's eyes darted as panic set in. Refusing to yield, she tried to summon legal threats, threatening fines and possible towing of the helicopter. Sheriff Cruz held up a hand and produced my contract, thumping it on Karen's clipboard so hard the pages fluttered. "This supersedes any HOA restriction," Cruz announced. "You have no authority here." The words hung like a gavel in midair. Karen's face drained of color as neighbors edged closer, emboldened by the sheriff's support and my evidence. Then, in a surprise twist, the governor's chief of staff arrived, having tracked his boss's flight manifest. She'd insisted on arriving incognito to ensure the lease's enforcement. Stepping from a stretch limousine, she presented her own credentials and quietly summarized the executive privilege underpinning the helicopter's use. Karen's protests sputtered into incoherent squeaks. She staggered backward, the weight of her hubris collapsing around her. It was the crescendo of confrontation. HOA Karen reduced to muttering half-formed excuses as Sheriff Cruz and the Chief of Staff exchanged firm handshakes. The scene was surreal. A once feared HOA tyrant now trembling under the combined might of law and state authority. In the stunned silence, I climbed aboard my helicopter, spraying the crowd with beads of condensation from the cooling rotors. I offered Karen a final, compassionate glance, her defeat complete. Her power evaporated like morning mist. Above us, the governor's flag fluttered from the tail boom, glinting in the last rays of sunlight. The crowd erupted into cheers as I lifted off, ascending into the purple twilight, the whir of my helicopter a triumphant anthem over Willow Ridge Estates. My midnight mission accomplished, I left behind a transformed neighborhood where respect for rightful authority had supplanted petty overreach. The helicopter's downdraft scattered Karen's violation notices across the lawn, each letter a testament to her irrelevance. In the weeks that followed, the HOA repealed Karen's illegal amendment, and she was swiftly recalled from her position in a unanimous vote. Neighbors shared stories of her downfall at block parties and online forums, the hashtag Heligate trending regionally. Sheriff Cruz received commendations, and the governor publicly praised the swift resolution of the dispute. Our community, once shackled by ridiculous curfews and trivial bans, now embraced transparency and accountability. As for Karen, she retreated into obscurity. A cautionary legend whispered whenever someone tempted to legislate their way into others' lives. The crisp morning air carried the hum of renewed life through Willow Ridge Estates as the sun rose on a community transformed by one fateful confrontation. The helipad, once a lonely slab of concrete shadowed by Karen Whitaker's arbitrary bans, now gleamed under the governor's seal, its landing lights repurposed as festive lanterns for weekend markets. Neighbors drifted toward the green in clusters, young families pushing strollers, retirees ambling with coffee cups, teenagers skateboarding along paths newly painted in vibrant murals celebrating local history. In place of fear, there was laughter, children's voices rising above birdsong as a local jazz trio set up by the community garden's edge. Without a word, I stepped onto the grass, the same grass where Karen had once lectured us on safety, and felt a swell of pride at how swiftly tyranny can be overturned when people choose unity over apathy. In that moment, I knew our shared victory was more than a single night's revolt. It was the beginning of an enduring ethos of mutual respect and open dialogue. It wasn't long before the HOA bylaws underwent a complete overhaul. At the annual meeting held this time in the open air beneath twinkling lights instead of a claustrophobic boardroom residence packed folding chairs onto the helipad turn plaza, Sheriff Cruz, now revered as a champion of civil liberties, was invited to offer a keynote address. She spoke without notes, her voice clear and warm, reminding everyone that rules are only as just as those who craft and enforce them. The crowd erupted into applause, and as she stepped down, the microphone passed from hand to hand. Neighbors proposed guidelines to ensure any future amendments required not only a 2/3 majority but also a community referendum and sheriff's review. This new charter, drafted collaboratively over coffee mornings and potluck dinners, became a model for nearby towns grappling with similar HOA overreach. Meanwhile, the garden flourished into a hub of intergenerational exchange. Mrs. Patel taught her grandchildren to weave jasmine garlands, their laughter echoing under the arbor. Mr. Dixon, whose tomato festival now drew visitors statewide, collaborated with local chefs to launch a farm-to-table pop-up that supported veterans' charities. The governor's office, grateful for the dependable helicopter access, sponsored emergency response training sessions right on our grounds, transforming what had been a point of contention into a symbol of communal safety and solidarity. I often found myself perched on a bench by the helipad, watching neighbors forge new bonds over boiling hot wings and cooled lemonade, recalling how close we had come to allowing fear to stifle our freedom. In a surprising turn of events, Karen Whitaker resurfaced one Saturday afternoon, her posture humble beneath a shabby sun hat. She approached the information booth set up for a charity fundraiser, clutching a small stack of apology letters she had handwritten to every household she had fined or admonished. Murmurs rippled through the crowd as she stood before me, tears glistening on her cheeks. Without a hint of rancor, I accepted her letters, each one confessing her misguided zeal and promising to volunteer at the next community cleanup. Some neighbors crossed their arms, but others offered tentative smiles of forgiveness. It was a testament to our collective belief that redemption is possible even for those who once wielded power unjustly. As dusk settled on another eventful day, I climbed into my helicopter to escort the district's Elder Council on a sunset tour of the newly restored wetlands and wildlife corridors projects funded by the proceeds of our now famous summer festival. From my vantage point, The estate spread like a tapestry embroidered with golden fields, winding walking trails, and clusters of lantern-lit gatherings, each a proof point that resilience and cooperation can outshine tyranny. Below, I spotted Sheriff Cruz exchanging heartfelt greetings with Mrs. Alvarez and a group of excited schoolchildren. Their bright faces turned skyward in awe. A warmth spread through me at the sight, knowing that our midnight barbecue had ignited more than a revolt. It had rekindled the very soul of our neighborhood. Landing softly, I offered a wave to the onlookers before stepping onto the pad, the helicopter's blades slowing to a gentle whisper. Every eye was upon me, not with fear but with shared pride. I raised my hand in a modest salute and said, "Remember, true power lies not in banning flights or barking orders, but in lifting each other up when skies are dark." The crowd cheered, and for the first time, I felt that our story was no longer about one man's fight against an entitled Karen. It was about a community's unwavering commitment to justice, compassion, and the unbreakable bonds of collective action. What do you think, readers? Was ending Karen's reign of petty terror worth the upheaval, or should some rules remain unchallenged in the name of order? Share your thoughts on right and wrong below.